This is an explainer meeting. So today we'll learn about the process of program planning. And then over the next several months, we will engage in the process of program planning. And then at our annual meeting in May or June, we don't know yet, we will vote in our final program. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to share my screen and we will get started. You'll see, when I share it, you'll see my presentation.
Yeah, Lucy Terry. Going on here.
The viewers online, if they are seeing your screen or my screen.
Sure. So everybody online, are you seeing my screen? The presentation? Yep, they said everything is good to go.
Okay, 'cause I hit my screen, so I just want to make sure that that isn't the biggest one.
Oops. Okay, and get rid of some of the clutter on my screen before we get going so that the people here can see it. Okay, and then I'm gonna wander, but just a little bit so I can see the screen. So I apologize to Janelle. So welcome to Program Planning 2025 to 2026. A little bit of preface, we do a 2-year program. We're planning for the next 2 years. So currently we are executing the end of our last 2-year program plan. And so we're thinking about 2 years in advance because we feel like a 2-year cycle, we're going to go through the entire election cycle for general to general election. And we think that makes a little bit more sense. We won't vote on a 2-year plan. We will only vote on a 1-year plan, but then so we did this in 2024, and then in 2025, we just presented the plan that we had already come to develop in 2023. And so with there was one change to that plan, and that was what we kind of almost reaffirmed. So let me get started. I'm going to start with community norms. We respect everyone's time by starting and ending on time. I was 1 minute late, I'm sorry. Only one conversation at one time, please. We like to refrain from side talk. Thank you, Jenny. She's come to help me get my sweater off because I dressed in layers knowing I would get up here and get hot. And I have empowered Janelle to use the mute button liberally in the Zoom room. So please don't take offense if you come in and, well, you wouldn't know this if you aren't here yet, but if you accidentally unmute or leave your mute button off, she may mute you. So be sure that you check later if you've got a question and you want to, actually for the Zoom room, if you put the questions in the chat, I would appreciate it. That makes it a whole lot easier for us because then I can read the question, everybody can hear it. We want to capture off-topic items in a parking lot, and we'll agree to discuss them at a later designated time. We're good about that. So we do discuss those parking lot items. We have a suggestion box on our website, and I want to tell you that the suggestion box gets used, and I do look at it every single time somebody sends something to the suggestion box. I look at it. And it dumps into a spreadsheet, which means it's captured and it's there for all of eternity. Or until Google decides that they have to charge us $50 million to keep our Google stuff. Anyway, be present with the people we're meeting with. Please put your phones and other devices away during the meeting. Use the word ditto. This is a big one. Use the word ditto when you want to agree with another person, but have no new information to add. That saves us a lot of time, but also gives us the satisfaction of jumping in and saying, yep, I agree with that, but we don't need to reword it. Speak up if you feel like we're getting off track and we need to move to an issue. We need to move an issue to the parking lot. And we're also not aiming for perfection, although this is more of a one direction presentation. And everyone is responsible for upholding the norms. Please acknowledge if you notice that we are not doing so. Okay, as we go, please ask any questions as we go through the presentation. There is a whole bunch of information here. Also, please know that you don't need to remember everything that we're going to cover today. We'll send out an email next Tuesday with a link to the presentation along with other pertinent information. That will include the election report. We've gathered all the statistics and the data that we need for the election report. I just haven't finished writing the essay yet that goes to the beginning. So we'll send that out on Tuesday. All right, so first question you may have is, what is program? I mean, when you think of a program, you think of, you know, when you were in school and you went to a program and it was a movie in the library and but for League, program is includes the education that we embark on, the action, and the study at the local, state, and national levels. We may update existing positions. We may decide to embark on a study so that we can have a new position. And in 2025, we're going to plan program at the local and the state level. In 2026, we will plan program at the local and the national level. Okay, what do we do? Well, I'm sorry, why do we do program planning? Well, we need to figure out what we're going to spend our money on and our capital, maybe even more importantly, our volunteer capacity capital. It doesn't make sense, but our volunteer time. So that's what we need to figure out during program planning. Okay, so you might wonder, what is a position that we may change? I've heard about the studies. I didn't even, you know, even if I'm experienced in League, I know that we undertake studies. And that's how we craft a new position. But what do you mean by alter an old position? Well, 2 years ago, or 4 years ago, 2 years ago, in 2022, we recognized that there was a position that maybe we wanted to drop part of because it was no longer applicable and in fact might hamper our advocacy efforts. And so you can see these, the red highlighted portion here, the 6th district and the 6 at-large council members. That part of this position, we voted to delete. So we dropped that. Those words no longer exist in our positions, and we could do that by a simple vote. We don't have to do a study to do that. So that's one of the things that might come out of program planning. That's unusual, but it might. Let me know if we have any questions. Okay, excellent. All right, and why might we want to embark on a study and change our, oh, that's what I just talked about. Never mind, I got ahead of myself. Okay, what do we do to plan LWV programs? We decide what we want to focus on as a league. I'm sorry, what?
Janelle can put it on speaker.
We can't. The question from the audience was if Janelle could put it on speaker that we can't. I'm sorry. We don't have the technology here for the both mic and Zoom mic. Yeah, Zoom room.
But you want the thing on the right. I want the thing on the right. Just minimize the.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't understand what you were saying. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. Thank you. Okay, for the Zoom room, we were just adjusting the display here. Thank you for your patience. Yeah, I misunderstood what you're obviously. Okay, so what do we do to plan LWV programs? Well, first thing we do is we decide what we want to focus on as a local league. And, oh, I've made a mistake here. And what we want the LWVMO to focus on. That's a typo. We also review LWVMO positions and propose study or action. During this process, we should incorporate an emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion by examining our positions as to how they affect a variety of communities. I'm gonna bust in here. I meant to apologize at the beginning of this meeting because my eyes are puffy and I'm a little tired, so I'm slightly off my game. Because we stayed up last night to watch a movie called Amelia Perez. And I cannot recommend that movie more highly. It's on Netflix, and I think it's probably going to be nominated for an Oscar in some capacity.
It already won a gold.
And it won a Golden Globe. And anyway, and it's related to this slide, but I just highly recommend it. And we stayed up way later than we meant to and talked about it for an hour. So Amelia Perez. Okay. Go on. There you go. Okay, will we decide our program today? No, we will not. The process, this is a deliberative process. So we're going to take a little time with this process. The process begins today, ends at our annual meeting in the spring. And we will decide at this month's board meeting when that is. So we'll let you know soon when that is. So what do we do today? We will begin to review LWVMO and LWVKC positions, and we will begin the process of gathering information. Then we will meet for discussion about local and LWVMO positions and action in groups starting in late January. Sorry, another typo. At our February 25th Board of Directors meeting, we will review member input and craft a recommended program for the members to vote on at the annual meeting. We will also make recommendations to LWVMO. I want to tell you that LWVMO is asking us for more feedback than we've given in the past, and I'm really, really excited about this. So that just came down yesterday, so I didn't include information about that in the slideshow, but they would like to know what we think their priorities should be for action. They want to know if there is anyone interested in spearheading a study, if any of us think that there are some positions at the state level that need to change or that we need to add, then they want to know about that. And then there's also a national study, and they would like to have some volunteers participate in the national study. Okay, I'm going to pause and ask if there are any questions. Can't be that good. Yeah, Janelle.
What did we discuss at the little action groups starting in late January?
I'm glad you asked that, and it's it is. Great question. What do we discuss during the meetings? We'll have 2, possibly 3 questions that we'll ask at those meetings, but this is kind of what those questions will cover. So what should we focus on? Oh, and again, I apologize, I did not catch all of my changing national to states. This is all local and state. Are there any projects or initiatives we should drop? So we've been engaging in projects and initiatives for 2 years at the local level. Is there anything there that we should drop? The state has been engaging in projects. Do we have some input on that? Are the positions still adequate? Are there things that we want to advocate for, but we can't because we don't have a position for that? We just completed a study about voter access, and we did that partly because there weren't positions that we could use to go out and lobby for greater access for college students, for example. Do the positions need to be updated in the way that I showed you earlier? Do we need to embark on a new study? Should we advocate on these issues, offer civic education programs, or create an interest group? So we may have everybody says, yeah, we want to know more about, we should be focusing on this. Okay, what does that mean? Focus on that. Does that mean we need to learn more about that? Or does that mean we need to do something about that? Or does that mean, we ourselves need to learn more, or that we need to teach about that? We need to educate our citizens. So those are all things we'll be talking about. Yeah.
Are there currently ongoing studies, or what are they? And or you just start fresh each?
So the question was, are there ongoing studies or do we start fresh every 2 years? We just finished a study that the only stipulation about timing for studies is that the members have to approve the undertaking of a new study. So it's easier if a new study is if we undertake a new study, in the spring, we start to gather the people who might be interested in doing that study so that it gets approved at the annual meeting. But there is a process for calling special meetings. So there are ways that we could do it outside of that timeline. But there is currently no study going on. We just wrapped one up, and studies are kind of a big effort. So I'll talk just a little bit more about those later too.
Required to advocate.
To have a position.
No, the study is how we get to the position.
Right.
So the statement was that they require for us to have a position. Oh, you mean they are
Study is
required for us
in
to
order
have?
for us to have. a
Yes, the
position.
study is required in order for us to have a
So we can't
position.
just- Can't just decide on a whim, oh, we're gonna start advocating, but we have to do it based on.
Mhm. But you'll see that the positions that we already have that are all based on study fill 3 volumes that are this. So if we want to advocate, there's usually a position for that. Yeah, Janelle, question.
In the chat, Reba says we need more positions on education. We have one about funding, but with all the new areas and bills in the Missouri legislature that are addressing issues like bathrooms, sports in schools, banning books, prosecuting teachers, curriculum, etc. We don't have positions for these.
Okay, I'm gonna just paraphrase what Reva said because I know that you guys in the chat can see it, you see the chat, but here they can't, but so Reva said her question or her statement was that we need more positions about studies. I'm sorry, more positions about education. Thank you. Thank you. So that may be something that we decide to embark on. I will say, and I'll say it again in the slideshow, I will say that undertaking a study is a lot of work. And so it is an ad hoc committee all of its own and hours of work. And it is how we get our work done. It is what we do. And it is one of the reasons we are so respected is because we don't take our positions lightly. We don't just jump in on a whim. We also frustrate people for that same reason because they think we're not agile enough. But it is a lot of work. And so we have to jump into it with the understanding that someone has to be willing to lead that and that others have to be willing to participate. Yeah, Janelle?
There's a further comment. Could or would the state league help with a study like this?
Okay, and then the question was, could a state league help with the study? Well, that's exactly the feedback that they are looking for this year. This is the year to ask the state to embark upon a study. I will tell you what the state is probably going to come back and say is absolutely who among you is going to lead it. So yeah, I agree that we do need, I agree with Reva that we need positions on education because as a participant on the Legislative Action Committee, we struggled because we did not have a position for many of the bills that were coming out of the legislature. And so we could only present them for information only. We could not ask our members and supporters to either oppose or support a particular bill, many of those particular education bills, because we didn't have a position. Okay, and then what happens? Oh, I forgot what was the last thing. Oh yeah, we were going to discuss. Okay, so those discussions, we've got a timeline at the end of the slideshow. Those discussions are going to happen later this month. There'll be a board member who leads each discussion, and they're offered at different times. So we've got one in the morning. There are 4 of them on the calendar. We've got one in the morning, one in the afternoon, one early evening, and one a little bit later in the evening. So there should, oh, one on Sunday too. So there should be something that fits your schedule. So we want you all to please come and participate. And then the committee chairs will, oh, I'm jumping ahead. And then we will gather that information and look at those. We'll be recording those meetings. We will get everything that you say down on paper, and then the board will take a look at it. I am a little bit jumping ahead of myself here. The committee chairs will also use that information to plan their projects and generate their budget requests for the election cycle. So the last step is in the program process is that, yeah, I feel like I've left something out. Any questions? Because I want to go back to that discussion. Yeah,
I have
Elizabeth?
2 questions. Ann.
Yeah.
The first is, could you show us where the sign up for these things is on, I guess it's actually been now on the website. And the second one is more important. Would somebody who has done this before kind of give us a little sketch? You've outlined this very nicely, but that's not the details that people who participate need to know. And I would appreciate a real description of what that's about.
Yeah, so the question was, could we please provide the links to the meetings? We don't have those set up yet, but they will be in the Tuesday email. And could we also provide the details of what needs to happen and during those discussions? And absolutely, we will send you the questions, that's the actual questions that will be asked. And the most important thing maybe for you to know is that this is the time for you to do some brainstorming. So these small meetings, this is where we're generating new ideas and out of the box thinking and even pie in the sky, moonshot things. Let's really think about how can we best defend democracy and empower voters, and what does that look like? And then we'll start to, cull the things that are unrealistic or we don't have enough money for, but this is where we want to get the ideas, and this is where we want to, generate some enthusiasm and also figure out who might be available to help with that effort. I mean, there might be somebody in one of these group meetings that just all I care about is youth voting. I just want to take care of that. We just have to reach the young people. Well, that might be somebody who would lead that committee because 2 years ago, we voted as part of our program that we would start a new committee that was focused on youth voting, and then we couldn't find anyone who would step up and lead that committee. So a year ago during program planning, that was just about the only change we made, was that we dropped that because we didn't have anyone to lead it. And I see I'll see your hand up in 1 sec, but, and I really want to stress that this is our brainstorming, this is our idea session, because we have to decide what ideas, what projects, what initiatives we will follow through on, and then we have to actually follow through on them. And that means that we later will be out of the brainstorming ideas phase and be into the implementation phase. And it's really a struggle for almost every nonprofit organization, particularly volunteer nonprofit organizations. It's a struggle to not make every phase the idea phase. And everybody's, gets very excited about their ideas. But part of our strength is that we actually make those ideas happen. But we can't do that with every single idea. So we start with a giant cloud of ideas, and then we whittle it down to what is our most important, what ideas are most important, what are we focusing on? We match the priorities with the activities, and then we follow through. And then in the future, we're going to take it a step further and look back. How successful were we? Did we make a difference? Let's look at the data. So, all right, yes, Jim, question.
Well, I think you need to think about what the successes we've had as a demonstration of this.
Okay, you're saying too much. I'm going to ask you to come up and say it into the mic so they can hear you in the Zoom room. If it was one quick question, I would let you get away with that.
Okay, I think you have to look at our past successes as an example of this. And to help guide you where we're moving forward. You know, sometime, I don't know, in the past, because it happened before I joined the league, somebody had the idea that access to voting and voting security and protecting people who work at polls and all that kind of stuff was going to be an issue. And so we started the study and came up with a position, and just in time, because then it actually became a real issue in the very next election. And in our position, not only did it help us advocate, but we took it to the state, and the state said, yeah, that's a good position for all of us to have. And because we'd done the study, then we were able to sort of hand that off to the state, and it became a big issue. And I would argue that Reva's topic is probably the next one of those. And so, but you know, you get a room of 50 people, you're gonna have 50 different passionate ideas. And so this is a process that says, we collectively are gonna focus on these and not the whole.
And you could relate this. I think it would be extremely helpful to have a brief history of what has happened in the past and what has been successful. For those of us who have not been in the league very long, or who have not been around.
Guess what's coming up? So what Elizabeth said was, what Elizabeth said was, it would be great if we had a brief history of what's happened already. And so that we could base what we discuss on, you know, in our small group sessions. And I said, guess what's coming up in the next few slides. I'm gonna hang on one sec, Rita, because I want to follow up with what Jimmy said. Because he mentioned the election security study, and that we could then take a position and then we could advocate. And I just want to take that one step further, because here's something that then we did. Here's the implementation phase, which is that we met with the Jean Peters Baker. I can't remember what her role was, but we met with her because she was the person in charge of enforcement of the laws. And we said to her, what can we do to help you keep our election workers safe? And so she gave us some things that we could do, and we did them. So there's a whole lot that goes on that isn't necessarily, you know, individuals out, you know, that it might not be the volunteers who go out and register voters. There's stuff that happens, you know, in leadership too, that's a response that we actually get to implement because we did a study, because we have a position. Okay, Rita.
I just want to remind everybody that it does, as Jim indicated, foresight is one of the big things when establishing a position, because it can take a year or more to come and to conclusion with the study.
So Rita said she wanted to emphasize that foresight is really important in determining what studies we embark upon, because it could take a year or more. Standard is at least a year. So for us to actually adopt a new position. Again, there are mechanisms for changing that timeline. We did to push the state league to change the timeline for a concurrence. Concurrence is when, if one league has a position, other leagues, including at the state level, can say, yeah, that's a good idea. All right, we're going to take their work and we're going to say, yep, we concur. We take that position too. And that's what happened at the state level. And we did push them to change the timeline for that.
And one other thing, you have more than one of these meetings. So if you're really passionate about an idea, go to all of them and see who else wants to jump on your bandwagon.
Yeah, and Rita just said that you can go to more than one of these meetings. If you're really passionate about something, that's a great idea. You can rally support, you can rally other people who might say, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, I'll help you with that study. So go to all of them if you want. Yeah. Yes, Janelle.
You want me to do it in the microphone?
It won't reach.
Oh.
Or maybe it will.
Or you could just read do you see oh gosh.
Look at that.
We have another comment online. from Rita. In terms of success, the LAC,
Which is the Legislative Action Committee.
Legislative Action Committee, is in its 4th year, and the data that Anne has drawn up shows many people are sending in testimonials. So
Oh,
it's
yeah,
another
so
one.
that was a comment that, piggybacking on what Jimmy said, that, that we do have some real success, and I will emphasize that that success came, predominantly because of the implementation period of this whole cycle. So we've got brainstorming, and then we've got planning, and then we've got implementation, and then we've got look back. All right. Any other questions? There's some good discussion of
I
questions.
just have one comment for me. I have one comment for me. So I have not been involved with many studies, but one that I was involved with was the TIF study. And I learned so much. The study chair, the chairperson of that ad hoc committee brought in proponents, opponents, city administrators who administer the TIF, who apply it at different entities. So it was fantastic and well informed.
And TIF is tax increment financing, so it was a nerdy numbers filled study. I would have loved it. Okay. All right, so the first step is that we need to review our local and state positions. We will not do that here. You guys will do that at home. There's actually a slide a little bit later that says this is what your homework is. So you can go to lwvkc.org and under our work and then league positions. We have all the positions there. They're at the local, state, and national level. Local is easier to read. State, they have just revamped. So state's actually easier to read than it has been in the past because they have updated the summaries, so you don't have to necessarily go through and read every state position. And then the national is a big fat book. And we do have a couple of copies of the hard copies of that book floating around. If anybody wants to borrow that, they're welcome to mine.
PDF online.
But it's also, the PDF is online on our website. And I will tell you, I have not read every single position, especially the national position. But if you scan it, particularly if there's something that you really care about, like education, it's easy to go and see if there are positions about education. And if you do really care about something like education, you want to be sure you look at all 3. I know we're just giving feedback on local and state this year, but you want to go back and see all 3. Because if you want to advocate for something, you can use or if you want us to advocate for something, because we have to agree as an organization, but if you want us to advocate for something, we can use any of those position documents. So we can use a position from national or state or local to advocate. And we do. Okay, we've already talked about this, but one caveat to consider when thinking about changes you might want to make is that any change of position must be supported by a study, and a study must have a leader and volunteers committed to doing the work. So I don't want to dissuade anyone, but I also don't want anybody to jump in thinking it's going to be this like easy thing. It's really, my impression is that it's really fun for those who do it. Yeah, question.
Reach a point where a local chapter disagrees with the state or the national.
So the question is, do we ever get to, have we ever had an incident where the local league has disagreed with the state league or the national league? Not since I've been here. We might ask the Zoom room to raise their hand if anybody has, we've got more history in the Zoom room. Okay, excellent.
Alice has her hand up.
It's not about that, it's about another item.
We have 2 Alice's online.
Oh, there's a couple of people. Okay, there we go. I am inviting, no. Alice, please unmute and ask your question.
If you're talking Alice Kitchen, it's not about the current item we're discussing, but it is about a a position that we have on Medicaid, and Medicaid is under great threat in the state legislature. And
Okay, Alice, I'm gonna ask you to pause because I have to repeat your statements where, you know, we've got a little bit of tech, not difficulty, but tech limitations. Thank you. So, and I don't know, the other people who have their hands raised, if you can put it in the chat, that actually makes it a whole lot easier for us. So Alice is talking about a Medicaid position. Go on, Alice.
okay, in our book of positions, there is a generic statement about that. And Medicaid in Missouri is under great threat, as well as at the national level. It could be block granted. And so our position in the book is generic, and Marilyn McLeod has looked at it and is going to sign on to a Missouri budget project sign-on sheet, which is to alert people to what could happen and to be out there to prevent any undoing or reduction of health care for poor people.
Okay. Could you hear that? Okay, good. We thank you for increasing your volume, Alice. We don't have to repeat it. Okay, so thank you for that history. Anybody else have a history where you know that maybe that we did or didn't, or that we did disagree with the state? I will, actually, there is one that I can tell you about, which is ranked choice voting. Because there was we did not have a position locally, but we did have some enthusiastic supporters of a particular ranked choice voting plan that was being developed by another organization. And so we had some members who presented to the state board and encouraged the state board to sign on to this particular ranked choice voting plan, and the state board did not. And so, yeah, and thank you, Alice, too, for giving some history that gave me a chance to remember that we did have some history. And that was a little bit contentious. We lost a member because as the local league, we did not undertake a study, and we did not vote to advance that. We do have a general position on ranked choice voting, so that it wasn't that the state opposes ranked choice voting. They actually supported, they actually opposed the amendment that just came out last year that passed. We opposed that actively because we believe in, you know, different kinds of voting systems.
Which you might say what the amendment was.
Yeah, the amendment that passed disallowed ranked choice voting. And so the league believes that we should be open to different kinds of ranked choice voting or different kinds of voting systems. But the particular plan that the members of our league were enthusiastic about was not one that was approved of by the state board. And so, yeah, so it has happened. Yeah.
I just wanted to make one more comment from the chat. Reva says, and I think the report, and I believe she's referring to the report on TIF, tax increment financing, was influential on the city council and the mayor.
It was, yeah.
And then Donna Hoke said, the rule is that we cannot speak out if we disagree with state or national LWV. And I think she wants to say positions.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Donna. That's true. We are not allowed to speak out in opposition to the state or the national as a league, in representing the league. Individuals are allowed to say whatever they want unless you're the president or head of voter services. So Okay, thank you. What great questions. What great discussion. Another thing to think about, suggestions for local action or education. Also, well, that they have to be supported by a local, state, or national position. We've kind of already covered this. Then they also, of course, as we said before, need a leader, need some worker bees to actually make that happen. Okay, so here's the official timeline. January to February, members attend one or more small group meetings to discuss programs, suggestions, review positions, brainstorm. The board on February 25th, the board of directors will discuss the input from members and craft a recommended program. Then in April, we'll let all the members know what that recommended program is and also what the proposed budget is. And the proposed budget comes from the chairs, and we will share your input at the small group meetings with the chairs, the committee chairs, so that they can go back to their committees and say, hey, this is what it looks like we're going to be doing. This is where it looks like our priorities are going. And so we're going to put together a budget that we can put in front of the members and at the annual meeting. Okay, and here are the small group meeting dates. We don't have links yet. These will all be on Zoom for your convenience. They will all last an hour. And again, you'll have all of this information in the email on Tuesday, but I'll leave this up here for just a moment in case you want to take a look, take a screenshot, jot something down. You see a date you like, time you like. Okay, and your homework, which I already talked about. Oh, and I goofed that one too. Don't read over the LWVUS positions. My apologies. I obviously copied this from last year's. Forgot to update all those. I thought I caught them all. Well, actually, this one includes states, but you don't have to read LWVUS. You might scan it though, and then participate in one of those meetings. Okay, and as Elizabeth requested, here are the projects that our members completed during the 2023-2024 election cycle. So we will also send out the election report will come out on Tuesday, and that has a little bit more data, some more details about exactly how successful we were. It's a little bit more of a, look back. This only has 2 bits of information on it for each committee. What they did and how many volunteers it took. So I want to kind of give everybody an idea of how many people does it take to get this thing done. In the election report, we have lots of volunteer hours, and that's an impressive statistic, but maybe not as useful as how many people does it take, because sometimes some of our volunteers put in a lot of hours individually, and we want to get everybody involved. So legislative action produced calls to action once a week. They're about to ramp up again, and that took 15 volunteers. Observer Corps attended government meetings and reported on that, summarized the matters that were relevant to the league members, and it took 28 people to do that. There was an ad hoc election administration study. This no longer exists. So again, this is a look back, but this gives you an idea of what it might take to do a study. And they completed their election study, and we've crafted new positions. And that was the whole process. We had small group meetings, and then the new positions were adopted first by our local league and then by concurrence by the state league. Took 5 people to do that. Well, I say 5 people to do the study. Lots and lots of people came and met for the crafting of the positions. Social media had 2 campaigns, two projects this past year. And by the way, there's a whole ton of ongoing work that happens, and I've got all that listed, as much as I could remember of that listed on the slides, on a slide later. So these are just projects. They did an I Vote Because and I Joined Because social media campaigns, and that took 10 people. Fundraising held the second and the first, because this is a look back to 2 years. So we held the first and the second Peace, Love, Vote fundraiser. 5 people on the planning committee, 10 people the night of. DEI, which isn't strictly speaking a committee. We actually have an advisory. We have an advisor. It's really just one person and then me. So 2 advisors for DEI, who crafted a DEI presentation and training, a training presentation, and trained 150 members. We do require that our members, so I know we've got some new people here, we require our members to go through a DEI nonpartisan training before interacting with the public in the name of the league. And I'm actually meeting with the DEI advisor next week so that we can make recommendations to the board about how we do that moving forward in this new, well, in the new as Jimmy said, in the new anti-DEI time and space, and also, how often we ask people to refresh that training, and do we take that training a step further? So we'll have more information about that later. But there were 5 people who worked to develop that training, and then 2 of us who conducted the trainings. And then membership hosted mix and mingle social events and in-person and online new member orientations, which took 6 volunteers. Voter registration, they had a special project this past year where they did League of Women Voters Night at the KC Current. So that was pretty cool. 7 people were involved in that. And then also new citizen ceremonies. And that takes 11 people for each of those ceremonies. And there are, I think, a dozen or more each year. Forums created the consolidated candidate calendar. So this is a place where you can go and see all the forums, not just the ones we put on. This reminds me of Miracle on 34th Street, that movie where Macy's started to tell everybody, all the moms, where to find the presents, whether it was at Macy's or not. And so this is us being Macy's, that we're going to tell you where to find your forum, whether we're doing it or not. And 1 volunteer did that. Thank you, Terry. And hosting the local forums is another thing that's kind of ongoing. I should probably put that on the other slide, but that took 12 people. Get out the vote. One of the projects they did was public service announcements and radio ads. So that was a new project just the past year. That took 3 people. And they also did bus advertisements, also took 3 people to do the bus advertisements. Vote 411 and the voter guide, produced Vote 411, which is our online voter guide, and that takes 15 people to do. There's a whole lot of calling and emailing those candidates to beg them to give us information. And then this year, a new project was, instead of doing a printed voter guide like we've done in the past, we teamed up with the Kansas City Media Collective to distribute 15,000 of their voter guides. And I just have to brag about that team. I just have to brag about it because we fought hard to get them to print more guides. They were not going to print more guides than we would have printed. And we said, well, we don't see any reason to team up with you if we could print our own guide, and then we have twice as many on the streets. And so we fought hard and insisted that they print more guides. The only way we would help would be if they actually put more, if it meant more guides went on the streets, and it did. And we got those guides turned around in less than a week, and people were just begging us left and right for more guides. And that team even went out and picked up guides from places where they were lame and didn't distribute them, and they were sitting in a box behind the counter, and took them to another place where people would distribute them. So, yep, Janelle.
I just want to say anecdotally that, I was a student at UMKC this last year, and I was walking through the Women's Center, and I saw the guide on the counter, and I picked it up for a second, and the assistant director is like, don't take that, that's our last one. So I ended up taking them another another stack of copies.
which we probably stole from someone who wasn't distributing them. Well, we personally distributed, yeah, I will. We personally distributed 15,000 guides in Kansas City on the Missouri side. And then because we were so accustomed to doing so much work ourselves, Peg, we went over and distributed a bunch on the Kansas side. And all told, there were 38,000 guides in English and in Spanish that went to the voters in Kansas and in Missouri in a 5-county area. So yeah, 38,000. And we had a postmortem with the Kansas City Media Collective. And, when they first, in the middle of this process, we couldn't get them to commit to whether they were going to do it again in 2 years. But most of the talk implied that this would happen again. So we hope so, because it was very successful and their guide was fantastic. Yes.
2 comments online, or 3. First, Reva says this was a great idea. Terry said Parkville Library actually made copies of their voter guides so that they had enough guides to give out.
Oh.
And then Melanie asked, when telling the number of volunteers needed, maybe we need to know our membership numbers as well.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's a good question, Melanie. We have in the neighborhood of 300 members right now. We have about, I'd have to go back and look at our election guide. The election guide actually lists every single person who volunteered, and it's hundreds. It does list people who are not in our organization because we partnered with other organizations. And so we included all those volunteers too. And the way that we did that, because of course we require DEI and nonpartisan training for our volunteers, but we do work with partner organizations and we make our expectations clear to them, and we require their volunteers to clearly identify themselves as being with another organization. And then we give them the materials that they need to get the job done that we're doing at that moment, and also to make clear what the expectations are. So we have nearly 300 members, but we have all levels of members, of course. I don't mean like student or, I don't mean cost. What I mean is we have lots of people who have been members for a very long time who are members on, we call it on paper. They know that the more members we have, the more clout we have, and they also want to support us financially. And so when we talk about having 300 members, that's not 300 people. Not all 300 people can go out and volunteer and actually engage in the work that we do. They support us in other ways, and we welcome that. We strive at the leadership level to be as accessible as possible to everyone who wants to participate. So if you want to participate by writing a check and being a name on our roster, you can do that. If you want to participate by doing one voter registration event a year, you can do that. I mean, it's actually 2 things you'll have to do because you have to get trained. But if you want to not get trained and you want to show up at a work party and make buttons 1 hour a year, you can do that. If you want to work for the league, if you want to volunteer with the week, if you want to volunteer with the league 1 hour a week, 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, whatever you want to do, we have a place for you at the league. Okay, thank you. All right. And then here's our list of additional ongoing efforts. And I see this is the first time I've done this part of the slide. So as I'm going through it, oh, I should have included this. I should have put this there. And so anyway, this is not final. This is just information for you. But the e-voter is an ongoing effort. There are 3 people that work on that. One does almost all of the work and the other 2 do a little bit of checking. Financial management and compliance, 3 people work on that. Again, one does almost all of the work and a couple of people do some checking. Nominating committee, they are hard at work right now. And I'm going to throw out a pitch for nominating committee, because if you are interested in leadership, please contact Elizabeth Dar, because she is the chair of the nominating committee and they are looking for people. We actually don't have a ton of turnover right now. I'm really proud, pleased, to say that we are a stable organization and haven't had a ton of turnover. But we do have how many positions on the board? Okay, 2 or 3?
Oh, no, more like 4 or 5.
Oh, we have,
It
oh,
depends
oh,
on how-
oh, okay. So, so we have 4 or 5 positions on the board, but I think she said depending on how things shift, because that might be that some other leadership positions are being recruited from the board. So, so I don't think we have a ton of people rolling off completely, although I am. So we will need some people on the board. If you're interested, please let us know, because we would love to talk to you. Well, Elizabeth would love to talk to you. I will not be talking to you at all except to answer questions, because I don't get to weigh in on any of this. We also have monthly meetings, this that we're doing right here, and there are about 7 people who help with that. Social media posts go up all the time, and there are 5 people that work on that. Voter registration events go on year round, 24/7, 365 days a year. It feels like there's always voter registration going on. And last year there were 63 people. The year before that, I think there were quite a few more, and I think that might be an undercount. I'm gonna double check with Becky on that, but, and then get out the vote, distributed tons of information all year long. Well, not all year long, but, actually Get Out the Vote focuses for the 4 weeks before the election, before each election, although we did a little bit of extra at the city market this year. But they really get out in force during that 4 weeks before the election. So there were 84 people who handed out Vote 411 cards and talked to voters this year. Okay, and then I gotta throw in a pitch for the Leadership Academy. So we are doing a Leadership Academy. This is the inaugural cohort, and my brother Jim, who I refer to as Jimmy, but his name is Jim, and I will be teaching. Well, we'll be facilitating, I will say, not so much teaching, because we don't know everything there is to know about all of this. And but what we do know is how to Google stuff and how to find it. So, so we are forming a cohort of 10 students. We currently have 6, I think, already signed up. So if you want to sign up, you got to get in there, get your spot. This will last 10 weeks. I will tell you that the first 7 we think are really important. The last 3 are a little bit bonus. So when we say 10 weeks, you could skip out on the last 3 if you want to. I can't imagine anybody would, because the stuff we're going to be teaching is so fun. It's going to be so fun. We're going to cover the mechanics, philosophy, and emotions necessary to lead in a volunteer organization. Our leaders, I'm going to toss in that many of our leaders have gone to conferences. One of the things that your dues help pay for is for us to go out and get educated. So they bring that information back, the stuff that they learn at these conferences, and then guess where it gets applied? Jimmy and I read those notes and we say, oh, look at that. So this is not just stuff that we just think out of our own heads. We're looking at research, and we're getting information that our other leaders have gathered at the various educational events they've gone to. So our goal is to have a collaborative cohort that brings experience to the classes. So if there's something that you know how to do well, we'll want to know it. And I guarantee you there will be at least one thing that we're up there showing blah, blah, blah. And somebody will say, how do you do this? And we'll say, I have absolutely no idea. Let's figure it out together. I can't wait. There was something I had to do the other day and I was like, I should save this, except it needs to be done. So darn it. Of course, we want to build a bench, to use a sports metaphor correctly, I think. We want to put together a bench of players, leaders who can come in so that people feel really comfortable coming in to leadership. So they feel like they have so that you, not they, you, so that you feel like you have the tools that you need to step up and be a successful leader and to do it in, you know, maybe 10 hours a week. Not, I think sometimes in nonprofit organizations, especially volunteer nonprofit organizations, getting into leadership feels like this infinite, I don't want to do that. That's all I will do every day, all day is nothing but that. And that's not sustainable. I mean, it's true that that happens and it's not sustainable. And I know even the people who think, yeah, but I really want to, we're going to kind of maybe coach you not to do that because we want to make sure somebody can come along behind and replace you. I'm a little guilty of that one. And yeah, huge. Thank you, Jimmy said. And we need new ideas. Absolutely, absolutely. I was very flattered. I hope I'm allowed to say this. I was invited to, I was asked if there would be any interest for me to do another term. I said, absolutely not. It is time for someone else to come in with some new ideas. You've got all my ideas. I'm out. So, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, someone online said, how do you sign up for the Leadership Academy
It is on our,
newsletter?
hey, it's on the calendar. Thank you. It's on the calendar and there's also a link at the last e-voter.
And then you sign up through the League of LWVKC member portal.
Yeah,
Lots of ways.
yeah.
January 21st.
Yeah, it starts January 21st. So if you go to that date on the calendar, you can just click on that link and it'll take you to the sign up. Yeah. Okay. So, oh, I forgot there are 3 slides for this. So in the academy, we're going to cover all these topics. Like I said, the last 3 are a little bit more advanced. Canvas fun. Oh, I know, right? And Jimmy said we'll be having so much fun by then you won't want to leave. And we might have snacks. The other question was, will there be snacks? We know it's a cohort of it's a cohort of 10, exactly. It's a cohort of 10 and it lasts 10 weeks. I think there might be snacks. Yeah, yeah. And I also, we saved the best for last because Canva is really fun. And you can, if you learn Canva, you can make like the coolest Christmas cards in your circle of friends. So we saved that for last for a reason. Okay, and here are the particulars of the Leadership Academy, including where to go to register. But telling you that it's on the calendar, that's probably the easiest way. And it is here at the Northeast Library. Although I think we only have B. I don't think we have the whole room because we don't need the whole room.
Oh, yeah, it is 6,000.
Oh, another typo. Oh, uh-oh, that went out in the e-voter. I copied this from the e-voter. That's a typo on the address is what we're talking about here. It is 6,000 Wilson Street, not 3,000. Thank you for catching that. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for all that you do. We can't do as much as individuals as we do collectively. It makes such a difference for us to work together. So thank you. I'm going to open it up for questions. If anybody has any more questions. Nope, that's not what I want to do. I'm going to look in the chat. Thank you, Jim. I was going to say because I can't see them. Yeah. Okay, any other questions from the Zoom room? This was kind of a shorter meeting.
Laura says there are 2 spots left.
Oh, wow. You guys just jumped right on and signed up that there are only 2 spots left in the Leadership Academy. That's fantastic.
Number 11, sorry.
Okay. All right. So then my next question, I know I had a couple of people who maybe had some announcements to make.
I just have,
Yep,
A couple
okay.
of things online, going back to, LWVKC positions, Riva, and Alice made some comments. Alice said, what did we decide to do regarding 16-year-olds voting on school boards? School board elections, did we act? And then Riva commented, the legislature also wanted to pass a bill to disallow people under 18 from attending an in-person hearing, mainly to prevent high schoolers from testifying against education bills like bathroom.
Okay,
So
I
just
don't,
wanted to go back to position.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you, thank you. So, I'm gonna address those questions one at a time. So Alice, your question was, did we have a position on 16-year-olds voting? We don't have one. We did not engage in a study this year and we did not adopt a new position. So I would have to do some research to know whether we have an existing position that covers that. I'm assuming that we do not, since you're asking the question. So if that is something that you would like to pursue, I'm going to encourage you to do that. To pull together some people who are also passionate about that and pull together a study. And then the next question was,
Just about keeping young people out of meetings.
okay, and I actually have the same answer for that, and that might be rolled into the same study. That, participation, prohibition on participation of 16 or 18, under 18-year-old citizens. Yeah, that if we don't have a position on that, we would need to undertake a study and develop a position, and those might go in the same study. Yep, Rita?
I have a question totally different.
Okay.
Off that topic.
Okay, I'm gonna throw out any other comments or questions about positions before we move on to another question. Okay. Yeah. And Rita's headed up. All right, and we're gonna have a question.
I have no problem doing this.
And then Donna said the 16-year-old study might be a national level. That is true. We can certainly, we can certainly we can certainly give feedback to the National League about doing a study. However, we don't give that feedback this year. So that would mean we would be requesting that study in 2026. And then it would be voted on. So we would make that request to the National League a year from now, and then it would be voted in or not at the National Convention, which is in 2026 in June. And so that is when the study would start. And I think if we think that's important at the local level, that we have a better shot of having the local or the state league undertake that study than at the national level. There's one study that's going on at the national level right now, and it's to examine the federal judiciary and the guidelines there. And that's the first national study since I've been president. So, okay. Anything else about studies or positions? Okay, Rita.
Excuse
Transitioning.
me, I have a question.
And just for those of you who may not know, LWVUS is transitioning how members join a local league. And that hard date is February 1st. So it's coming up very soon. So when you renew or you have a friend who wants to register, they will be going to the LWVUS site to register, not to our website. So when there will be a join button on our website, which will immediately take them to the LWVUS website. We receive, at that point, there will be suggestions and payment requests, etc. We receive very little funding from membership dues. As of February 1st, we receive 10% of whatever you give them. They have a minimum amount, I think, of 20 $20 or $25. And they have suggested amounts. I think it's 75 for an individual. However, if you join at the minimum and you still want to donate at 75, you can always go to our website and hit the donate button and donate the rest of that money to us, so it stays locally. So I just want to give a real big push. You're going to see differences on our website. We're going to change what the verbiage is on our website. And I know Laura's working with membership on how to phrase whenever she does a presentation on how to phrase that challenge. We don't want people to think that we don't want you to support LWVUS. And we don't want you to think that we don't want you to support State League, because your dues do go to all 3 levels. But we are getting the least amount locally. The state office is getting 47, I think, percent or 48%. And then
We used to set our own amounts.
yes. And we're not allowed to do that anymore either.
Repeat what he said.
We used to set our own amounts for individual and household and student. Student is gone. They're not going to entertain a student fee. So there's going to be changes. I would invite anybody who wants to listen in on one of the LWVUS financial meetings. They're a little
Dry.
no, they're very interesting with all the comments on the side about what LWVS is doing. Yes, yes, they are. So, but this is going through. There's nothing we can do about it. They've been working on it for 2 years. They've gotten all of our negative comments and they're still going through questions. Yes,
If we join before February 1st, is it under the old system?
correct,
Oh.
correct. So it's only if you join February 1st or renew February 1st onwards. And we already have ongoing renewals. So whenever you joined is your renewal date, that will stay the same. So you will get a notice now from LWVUS saying renew. Yeah. Janelle.
Yeah, I was just wondering, so if we choose to do the minimum online, it's
Mhm.
still divvied between national and state, and just local would get nothing.
Well,
that
local
correct?
will get 10%
Oh,
of
they
whatever.
still 10%,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So, yeah, that might be a process that we'll want to explain, because having 290 members, I think only a portion of them are here.
I know.
Online or in
I know.
person.
There's going to be more information in the e-voter. I did a presentation on this last year, which you can go back and see. I think I did it in March of last year. It's on our YouTube channel, but I will pull some of that information and start putting things out there. every
The
month.
other thing I wanted to say, I'm sorry, just quickly, is, sorry, is initially LWVUS told us that only one fee would be assessed for making that payment online. And then the money would be divided up and immediately dispersed. That is not correct now. So
No, it is.
they're charging 3 fees.
Yes, but you pay one fee.
Yes, but I want to
Okay.
say that more of your money will go to credit card processing, because even though they had indicated that it would save money in the long run, it is not saving money, because they will end up getting dinged with 3 credit card fees as they disperse your 1 donation.
Yes, yes. So the LWVUS will also pass that fee on to the state league or to our league.
Yeah.
So it's, and initially they said they wouldn't do, but they've changed their minds. So they are now sending us that fee as well. If you want to pay by check, they have a US Post Box number that if you give me or anybody in the league, and it eventually gets to me as a treasurer, that this is your check for joining, I have to send it to them to deposit. And then it gets dispersed.
But no fees.
There will be a fee. There will still be a fee, a transaction fee.
For a check?
For a check, because they have to disperse it through their system. And their system, it will charge a fee. So they are discouraging checks big time.
Okay.
No electronic funds transfer like a.
Be the same. as
That's the
Yeah.
same as a check,
Yeah.
as paying by
The
credit card.
question was about,
Processors.
the question was about electronic
Electronic.
transfer.
Yeah.
You know, like when you do an electronic check.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Pauline Testerman says, if there is a national study, why are we not participating in it? And I'm sorry, Pauline, I'm not
thank
sure
you.
what you're referring to.
Yeah, I'll answer that in a sec, Pauline.
Okay.
So I did want to address what Riva asked. She said, will this be in the Tuesday email? No, it won't. The board needs to discuss how we message, how we talk about this, because we are an organization that does a lot of work at the national level and at the state level. And so we definitely, one thing I could tell you for sure is that we will 100% encourage our members who have been in the habit of paying their dues and then giving a little extra, because, you know, it's easy to do $100 at renewal time. And there used to be that 30 of that went to us, the other 70 was split up according to, you know, the formula. That will not be the case any longer. The whole full $100 will be split up. So for sure, we are going to instruct every one of our members, if you want to give a little extra, we love you. Please give a little extra, but do it over here. Now, how we talk about the recommended dues versus the minimum dues, that is something the board still needs to discuss. So it will not be in the Tuesday newsletter or email. But you will hear, once we've decided, you will hear much about this over and over and over again. Okay, and Pauline, we are, absolutely, we are, and that's one of the things that will go out in the newsletter. And I think, no, it hasn't gone out yet. It will. I've already submitted all of that information to the e-voter, so it comes out in the next e-voter because that's the member-only e-voter. It just came out to me, that information did. So yeah, absolutely, we have somebody who's already stepped up at the state level to lead the Missouri participation, and they are 100% looking for people at the local level. So yeah, we are absolutely participating, and there will be more information forthcoming. Thank you.
Participating in a
Thank you.
national study for what?
In a national study about the federal judiciary. Yep. Yeah. Any other questions? You guys are so awesome. This is part, I always worry if I don't want to keep anybody longer than, we try to stay under, but I also worry sometimes if I present things too quickly, I don't want everybody to have driven all this way for 1 hour. So, all right, well, I'm gonna yep.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Anne, could you tell us now that we know about positions and how we go about creating a program for the next 2 years, what our next step is?
Yeah, so our next step is do your homework. Read the email that comes out on Tuesday, do your homework, look at the positions, go to one of the small group meetings, one or more, thank you. Go to one or more of the small group meetings, throw out your ideas. You got a couple of weeks to think about those ideas. Throw out your ideas, your wish list, just put it all. We're going to throw as much on the wall as we can. We'll see what sticks. And then the board will kind of take it from there until it's time for us to reconvene at the annual meeting. Yes.
It's also important at the small group meetings to listen.
Jim says it's also important at the small group meetings to listen. We might include a slide or two, including the one that we had at the beginning of this meeting with our standards for behavior. Yep. Yeah. But more than just to be polite to everybody else. Yeah, he's right. We should listen because we should listen to hear what the other ideas are that might spur us into action, or we might have additional knowledge. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm gonna last call before whatever the word is for end this meeting. What's the word? Adjourn, thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Take a nap today.
I 100% need to take a nap today, but again, recommend Amelia Perez. It was enough to keep me up the night before I have to lead a meeting. So, all right, well, there being no other questions, thank you everyone for coming. We had a great turnout and thank you for your participation. And I look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. We are adjourned.
Thank you, everybody online.